Srimad-Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada, Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayana Namaskritya
Narayana Namaskritya
Naram Chaiva Narottama
Naram Chaiva Narottama
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayamudire
Tato Jayamudire
Nastaprayeshu Babadreshu
Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavate Uttama Shloke
Bhagavate Uttama Shloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki
Bhakti Bhakti Naishtaki.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome to this very auspicious occasion where Uttam Prabhu and Disha Mataji are most fortunate to be welcoming the glorious Srimad-Bhagavatam into their home. This is not different than bringing the Supreme Lord Himself into your home. We can think, if you wanted to bring the president of some country to your home, is it so easy? Can you do it? Just invite them, send them a letter. Hey, come to my house. Yeah, cake. You want to bring some, maybe with cake? If you want to bring some famous movie star, cricket star to your home, is it so easy? So bringing the Supreme Personality of Godhead to your home, then you can imagine actually how difficult it is. It sometimes appears through our own eyes that it just kind of happens. But actually that is not the case. It happens only by the divine arrangement of the Supreme Lord Himself. A great personality only goes where he or she wants to go. Can you make, the king go to some place he doesn't want to go? They choose. So if a king has that type of discretion, and what type of discretion the Supreme Lord has? He has absolutely complete. So the arrival and presence of Srimad-Bhagavatam into our home is no simple, ordinary thing. Oh, I make some space in the bookshelf for some books. Like that. No. first and foremost, we have to make space in our heart, in our consciousness, to actually bring Srimad Bhagavatam into our home. So actually, we are first welcoming Srimad Bhagavatam into our hearts, into our consciousness. Then it will manifest in our homes. And so it is of great fortune. And we may wonder what we did, and what we did either in this lifetime and in the cumulative of many, many lifetimes prior. We have done some good activities in spiritual life, where Krishna has seen our desire to come closer to Him, and thus He has come present in front of all of us. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is extraordinary, and so we'll read today a little bit. We'll read the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is a very famous and popular verse. And this verse actually serves as the seed for all 18,000 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. From this single verse, all the subsequent verses are expanded upon from. So we'll read this verse. We'll read a little bit from Srila Prabhupada's purport. It is almost 8 pages in length, a very detailed purport. So we'll read bits and pieces of it. But I thought today we'll discuss the details of this verse, kind of go almost line by line and understand what it is that is going to be unfolded for all of us throughout this entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay? So if you know this verse, you can repeat with me. It's a very famous verse, and I recommend everybody memorize this verse. It's a very powerful mantra. So we'll chant. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So now you can recite along if you know, or just hear. Janmaryasya yatonataya aditaracha pratesha vignasvara tene brahma nidaya dikavare muyanti yasuya tejo valimudam yatha vimayoti sarga vrisham dana svena sada nirasta puhakam satyam param dhimani. The translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I'll warn you, the translation and the purport's a little bit dense, but don't worry, we'll unpack each piece line by line afterwards, so just hear, but it is a little dense. Translation. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because He is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universe. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and He is independent because there is no other cause beyond Him. It is He only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By Him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire, or land seen on water. Only because of Him do material universes, temporally manifested by the reaction of 3 modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon Him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon Him, for He is the absolute truth. Purport. Obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Vasudeva directly indicate Lord Sri Krishna, who is the divine son of Vasudeva and Devaki. This fact will be more explicitly explained in the text of this work. Sri Vyasadeva asserts herein that Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and all others are His direct or indirect plenary portions or portions of the portion. Srila Jiva Goswami has even more explicitly explained the subject matter in Is Krishna Sandarbha, and Brahma, the original living being, has explained the subject of Sri Krishna substantially in his treatise named Brahma Samhita. In the Samaveda Upanishad, It is also stated that Lord Shri Krishna is the divine son of Devaki. Therefore, in this prayer, the first proposition holds that Lord Shri Krishna is the primeval Lord, and if any transcendental nomenclature is to be understood as belonging to the absolute personality of Godhead, it must be the name indicated by the words Krishna, which means all attractive. In Bhagavad Gita, in many places, the Lord asserts himself to be the original personality of Godhead, and this is confirmed by Arjuna, and also by the great sages like Narada, Vyasa, and many others in the Padma Purana. It is also stated that out of the innumerable names of the Lord, the name of Krishna is the principal one. Vasudeva indicates the plenary portion of the personality of Godhead, and all different forms of the Lord being identical with Vasudeva are indicated in this text. The name Vasudeva particularly indicates the divine son of Vasudeva and Devaki. Sri Krishna is always meditated upon by the Paramahamsas, who are perfected ones among those in the order of life. Vasudeva, or Lord Shri Krishna, is the cause of all causes. Everything that exists emanates from the Lord. How this is so explained in later chapters of this work. This work is described by Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya as the spotless Purana, because it contains the transcendental narration of the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. The history of Srimad-Bhagavatam is very glorious. It was compiled by Sri Vyasadeva after he had attained maturity in transcendental knowledge. He wrote this under the instruction of Sri Naraji, his spiritual master. Vyasadeva compiled all Vedic literatures containing the 4 divisions of the Vedas, the Vedanta Sutra, or the Brahma Sutras, the Puranas, the Mahabharata, and so on. But nevertheless, he was not satisfied. His dissatisfaction was observed by his spiritual master, and thus Narada advised him to write on the transcendental activities of Lord Shri Krishna. These transcendental activities are described specifically in the 10th canto of this work. But in order to reach to the very substance, one must proceed gradually by developing knowledge of the categories. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Bhakta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyapta Veshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Okay, ready to start unpacking?
Yes.
Very dense. So let's discuss first a little bit of context for Srimad-Bhagavatam. What is Srimad-Bhagavatam? So we got some indication from the purport that Srila Vyasadeva compiled Srimad-Bhagavatam upon the inspiration of his guru, Srila Narada Muni. So we know that Srila Vyasadeva has compiled and put to writing all of the Vedas. Who is the author of the Vedas?
Krishna.
Krishna. Right? He says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vedanta Kud Veda Eva Chaham. I am the compiler of the Vedas. Srila Vyasadeva put it to writing for our benefit. So he put to writing all of the Vedas, all of the Puranas, all of the Upanishads, and a vast, vast, vast library of Vedic literature. It was an extraordinary feat, only enabled by the great help of Lord Ganesh, who could be the scribe to Srila Vyasadeva's dictation. So there was a tag team. Srila Vyasadeva is the literary incarnation of the Supreme Lord himself. So after compiling this gigantic, voluminous amount of Vedic knowledge in Shastra, including very importantly the Vedanta Sutras. The Vedanta Sutras are short form statements, they're called aphorisms, which bring out the essence of the Vedas. In a few statements, they bring out the essence of some larger topic. But Srila Vyasadeva was feeling incomplete. He was not feeling satisfied. And that was perplexing him. Srila Narada Muni, when he meets Vyasadeva, glorifies Srila Vyasadeva for all his great contributions. And Vyasadeva, in essence, says, I'm not feeling... He actually says, I'm feeling dissatisfied. We were discussing this last night. And that's a strong statement, to say dissatisfied, almost as if he hasn't accomplished anything. But Srila Narada Muni explains why. Why he was not feeling complete satisfaction. Because, Narada Muni says, you have not spoken directly about Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is very, very instructive for us. When somebody goes to a doctor, do they ever ask the doctor, can you cure me 50% of the way? If you go to somebody's house for dinner, you say, can you fill me up 50%? Okay, 55%? No. We say, I want full relief. I want full satisfaction. When we dream about our goals in life, we aim high because we want complete satisfaction, right? Nobody aspires for partial. We may settle for it, left with no other choice, but our desire is full and complete. Well, Srila Vyasadeva's experience is very instructive for us. Because until we approach the complete whole, Krishna is Purna, complete. We cannot find complete happiness, complete satisfaction. Because unless someone is complete themselves, then they can give that which they have, which is complete happiness. And we're going to discuss this in this verse. So Srila Narada Muni said to Srila Vyasadeva that you must write directly about Krishna. In the Vedas, you have written insinuated indirectly. Krishna says, of all the Vedas, I am to be known. Right? Vedasya Veda, Sarvir, Aham Eva Veda. I am the one to be known of all the Vedas. But because he wrote indirect, he said, you're not finding satisfaction. So now, you should take to the effort of writing directly about the Supreme Lord. Then you will feel and become satisfied. And like that for us, if the author himself of the Vedas and of all the different supplemental literatures is feeling incomplete, then how can us as readers find any satisfaction? Complete. So, Srila Vyasadeva began to then compile Srimad-Bhagavatam. And what is Srimad-Bhagavatam? It is a commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. That is the technical position of Srimad-Bhagavatam. It is the commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. The sutras being the aphorisms of the whole of the Vedas. And it is considered to be the ripened fruit of all Vedic knowledge. You know, when we have a tree, a mango tree, what is the essence of that mango tree? Huh? A mango, a fruit, right? The bark is nice, the branches are nice, the leaves are nice, but what do we aspire for? The mango. And what type of mango is most beneficial? Most ripened.
Yep.
The ripened, even if it's dripping with some sweet juice, then it's like the ripened. So our Shastras compare that if you take a tree to be all of the Vedic knowledge, and it's a large, gigantic tree with many branches, many sub-branches, main trunks, lots of different divisions. And if you take the fruit of that tree and then ripen it, how much so? We know that after a parrot's beak has touched the fruit, it becomes increasingly sweet. That fruit would be the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So if you take the essence and the ultimate guidance and instruction and sweetness from all of the vast Vedic literature and you condensed it, it would come into this Srimad-Bhagavatam. That's what Srimad-Bhagavatam is. And in the second verse, I'll just read the verse. We get a little bit of a glorification of Srimad-Bhagavatam, which says, completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavad Puran propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. So the very second verse speaks to the extraordinary position of Srimad Bhagavatam and how glorious it is. Our acharyas say that if you took all the wealth of the entire creation, not just this planet itself, but all of creation, it would not amount to a fraction of the value of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now you have Srimad Bhagavatam in your home. Protect it, cherish it, and read it. Because this is the most greatest treasure in the whole of creation, is Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam contains a direct discussion on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what we see in Srimad Bhagavatam are stories, pastime after pastime, of how to apply the principles contained within the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna has given his perfect set of instructions on how to find absolute, eternal peace and happiness. And how to do it, the playbook, the play-by-play, the video tutorials, Srimad Bhagavatam. And it shows us how these principles have been put into practice time and time again. Throughout various eras in history, we'll see. And Srimad Bhagavatam contains incredible pastimes of great kings who were great devotees of the Supreme Lord. And ultimately we'll come to the 10th canto, which will speak directly about the pastimes of Krishna. But Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas warn us that we should very systematically go through Srimad Bhagavatam. we should not just race to the 10th canto, but that one must very systematically read. Prabhupada writes, in order to reach that very substance being the 10th canto, Prabhupada says, one must proceed gradually by developing knowledge of the categories. So by going from chapter 1, verse 1, canto 1, we will by going systematically through this process, one can actually then understand the substance of Krishna's pastimes. So we should not race to get there, but we should, if we're going to race by daily reading. And soon we'll get there. So this Srimad-Bhagavatam is again extraordinarily potent, very valuable. We can have the whole conversation just on the glories of Srimad-Bhagavatam. But let's try to understand this verse a little bit. Because it being the seed mantra, the opening stanza, and the foundation for how all remaining 18,000 verses are unfolding, let us try to understand a little bit about it. Bear in mind that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave a class on this verse for over a month straight. Okay? And he said, I'm just scratching the surface. So trust me, we'll not spend a month straight from here, but just recognize we're just going to get the appetite going. But we'll continue reading in due course, and the purport of this verse will unfold as we make our way through Srimad-Bhagavatam. But it is a very, very detailed verse and very, very power-packed. And so we'll just try to bring out a few points from it that we can kind of take home with us as we read. So the verse begins with saying, O my Lord Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisance unto you. This is the stanza that we chant before every verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Right? We chant that for every class, offering our respects to Vasudeva, who is the son of Vasudeva, who we'll hear about later in the 10th canto. Right? Now, Narada Muni told Srila Vyasadeva to write directly about Krishna. So first Srila Vyasadeva is establishing who is Krishna, because this is the source of extraordinary confusion and misinformation. Krishna says, even in the Bhagavad Gita, he said this before, that fools will deride me, thinking me to be some ordinary human. Will not understand. So Srila Vyasadeva, by his mercy, in the very first verse, is giving us some insight into who is Krishna. So first he says, I meditate upon Lord Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes, of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universe. So there is only one absolute truth. Absolute truth means from whom there is nothing beyond. Nothing beyond that. Right? And that absolute truth is Krishna. We think, no, he came from Vasudeva and Devaki. They preceded him. Right? No. Krishna is the supreme absolute truth. He is the source of everything. He is the, what do we say? Primeval cause. Everything has a cause. We are here because of our parents. We are living today because of the sunlight and the air and the foods that we eat. Right? There is a cause for everything. But there is no cause for Krishna. He is the cause of all causes. Understand the distinction? Yeah. So he is the original source. As we saw in the beginning of the purport, Krishna establishes this in Bhagavad Gita. Right? He says, there's no truth superior to me, he says in the 7th chapter. He says, Ham Sarvasa Prabhavo. Everything emanates from me. He says in the 10th chapter. And over again, Arjuna himself says that he was the Supreme Person. Krishna says in the 15th chapter, I am Purushottama. So like that. Lord Brahma also, in his Brahma Samhita, says, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachinananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karana. He is the cause of all causes. So that is Krishna. The cause of creation. We become very proud of our creation. Srila Prabhupada very nicely writes in this purport. The scientist thinks, I am creating water by bringing hydrogen and oxygen molecules together. But who is giving the hydrogen and oxygen? Actually, if we see everything that we are creating in this world, we are using someone else's resources. We may not yet know whose they are, but we're using someone else's resources to create something. Nothing we came into this world with, and nothing we are going to leave it with. So in between, we're simply rearranging someone else's resources. So when we say that we are the creator, we should understand that we are a tiny, dependent creator. But Krishna is the supreme creator. He, by his will, creates the whole of creation. Both material world and spiritual world. He equips it with all the necessary resources. That's why we see this invocation where Om Purnam Adaha Purnam Purnat Purnam Udachete Purnasya Purnam Vivashase. I'm forgetting the last stanza. We all know it. Purnameva Vishishate. That Krishna is making these complete whole universes. Everything he makes is complete. And even though he makes something, he remains complete. That's this Purnam Eva Vishishate, this spiritual math. We pull $100 out of our bank account is less by $100. But Krishna, when he makes 100 universes, he is nonetheless depleted. He remains complete and whole. So Krishna is the supreme creator. And he's also the maintainer. He is the maintainer. We see so many secondary maintainers. Nature, sun, our house, our parents, these are all second. But who is the ultimate maintainer? And he is the destroyer. At his will, everything will also be. So his will reigns supreme. Ours is always second. So this is Krishna. He is the primeval cause of everything. Now it says, he is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. He is conscious of all manifestations. Do we even have consciousness of what's going on in our left toe? We have no idea. We have no idea what's happening. Right? We think we don't even have consciousness of what's happening in the next room or the next home. So our consciousness is very limited. But somehow, with this consciousness, we want to try to use our own ability to try to understand, where the sun came from, who is the creator of this earth, who am I, and all these giant questions. But we can't even answer the simplest questions of, how this fingernail is growing on my finger. I don't have any consciousness of that. But Krishna has supreme and complete consciousness. He is the only one that has complete understanding of everything that is going on, both in the spiritual world and in the material world. And for us, in practicing devotional service, it is very, very comforting. But also we should take a little, warning also. It is a double-edged. When we do devotional service, sometimes we lament about, oh, I did this service and maybe nobody recognized, or maybe this would. Who is always the supreme witness to every service we do? Sometimes we are doing a service, I'll take cooking as an example, and we are trying our hardest to make something and it doesn't come out right and it's ruined. Remember, Krishna knows what the intent in our heart is, and thus nothing was ruined, because he knows what our intent was. On the other hand, we may make a wonderful offering for Krishna and think, wow, I'm better than so-and-so at cooking, and I'm better than this person at cooking. And all the devotees may eat and glorify, wow, this is the best I've ever eaten. But Krishna knows what was our mood that went into making that offering. It cuts both ways. But it is a great source of comfort. And whatever we are doing in devotional life, the Supreme Lord is the witness. Nothing goes unnoticed, unseen, and unreciprocated. But also be careful. Because we may be able to trick all of us, but we cannot trick the Supreme Lord. So keep this in the right space, and whatever happens in our devotional service, that is secondary. We do our best. We do the best that we may be with the facilities we have, and Krishna knows what went into it. And thus we can always be comforted. But Krishna is the only one who can claim this position of all-knowing. And he's all-knowing of everything. Next, he is independent because there is no other cause beyond it. We fight hard for independence, right? Nations fight for independence. When you're a child, you want independence. Right? We want, then as we get to an adult, we want like financial independence. Right? So we're always looking for independence. I'm sorry, my friends. There's only one independent. It's Abhigya and Swarat. Knowledge and independence is only Krishna. Independent means do as it please. You can say, no, I can tomorrow do as I please. Okay. If the sun doesn't come up in the morning, what will you do as you please? We are dependent on the arrangements of this world. If gravity all of a sudden were to shut off, what would we do? We are dependent on the laws of gravity for our basic life. I mean, you can get down to the very minutiae and see we're dependent on so many things for our existence. So whatever independence we are seeking, it is all relative. But Srimad-Bhagavatam is going to teach us. Acknowledge we are dependent. Then place your dependence on the supreme independent. When you place your dependence, if I'm dependent, I don't want to be dependent on someone who cannot provide for me, who cannot facilitate. So Srimad Vyasadeva is going to take us to say what Krishna told us in the beginning, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharmam Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Abandon everything and surrender unto me. So Krishna needs no other facilities, has no restrictions. He is will, it happens. He is the supreme independent. And we are the supreme dependent. But our false ego prevents us from acknowledging that and acting in that. But as soon as we do, then we find actual peace and happiness. If we resist that, we'll continue to try to find this independence in this world, but we'll constantly be slapped with setback after setback after setback. But by simply acknowledging our loving dependence on the Lord, everything becomes very sweet. So this is Krishna. It is He only who first imparted a Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. Lord Brahma we know to be, what is the role of Lord Brahma? Creator. But he is the empowered creator. Lord Brahma, when he appeared on top of the lotus stem emanating from the navel of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, he did not have knowledge of what to do. And he did not have potency of creation. So he went into tapasya. And through his tapasya, he achieved the potency to create. And where that potency came from? Tene Brahma Rida Adika Vahe. Krishna gave to Lord Brahma the ability and knowledge to create. And from there, Lord Brahma created. So Lord Brahma is not the independent creator. He is the dependent creator. And he was empowered directly by the Supreme Lord. So this position is very important to understand. Even Lord Brahma is dependent on the Supreme Lord. So what to speak of us? What to speak of us? Right? So this creation, this independent creation is only the position of the Supreme Lord. So even Lord Brahma becomes the empowered creator, according to the desire and will of Krishna. Then next sentence, by him even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire, or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes temporally manifested by the reaction of the three modes appear factual, although they are unreal. This is a very important two sentences. This material universe, it is a mirage. It is seemingly factual, but actually the only real existence is the spiritual world. We as spirit souls, we have only one natural activity, and that is to be in loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the only activity. Just as a fish has only one environment in which it can live, water. Similarly, the spirit soul has only one environment in which it can find satisfaction, and that is in loving relationship with God. But even the great sages and demigods become bewildered by this. We see this creation and think it to be factual, but we know it's temporary. It's not factual by the nature of being temporary. Creation, maintenance, and destruction by the Supreme Lord. So this nature is difficult for us to understand. So what are we to do? If the great sages and even the demigods are bewildered by this, then what should we do? We must surrender to Krishna through Guru Parampara. We need Guru in our life to teach, to break through this illusion so that we can understand the truth as it is. Because on our own power, we'll be completely bewildered. It's so powerful. I can swear there's water on this road, that mirage. But it's not there. This material world is full of illusion. We think, if I get one more zero in my bank account, one more car in my driveway, one more home in my house, one more this, one more that, I'll find happiness, I'll be all set, everything will be great. And we know each time we get that one more, we become frustrated. And we want one more. It's an illusion. Just as on a hot day, we think I'm getting one step closer to that water that's upon the road. But it's not there. But it seems that way. And we shouldn't be, oh wow, I'm foolish. Don't worry. Even the great sages and demigods can be bewildered by Krishna's illusion. But the simple way to break through, Daivi Heshavana Mai Mama Maya Dudataya. Mam Eva Ye Tapadyante. By surrendering unto Krishna, one can easily, quickly cross over this illusion. So yes, we don't have the power ourselves, but our Supreme Lord, our Supreme Loving Father is eager to bring us into reality. But it is up to us to desire. It is in our hands to desire. Krishna will never force. So it is up to us to send. Then, finally, only because of him do the material universes, temporally manifested by the reaction of the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. And then Srila Vyasadeva ends, I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. So Krishna residing in the spiritual world, free of all of the impurities of the material world, is eternally there. Though he is eternally present in witnessing all of our activities, he is situated in the spiritual world, simply enjoying. And who is he enjoying with? All of his devotees. And what gives Krishna the greatest pleasure? Giving happiness to his devotees. Nothing gives Krishna more happiness than giving to his devotees. And what do his devotees want to do?
Give back to him. Please.
Give happiness to Krishna. The more we seek to give happiness to Krishna, actually the more then we enjoy. The more we try to find it on ourselves, trying to be that independent creator, maintainer, destroyer, trying to be that absolute truth ourselves, we'll be frustrated. But by simply engaging in loving relationship with the Supreme Lord, that can happen. So this is what Srimad-Bhagavatam is all about. It teaches us about how great persons before us have found this perfection of life. And one of the beautiful things we'll see in Srimad-Bhagavatam are glorious, glorious prayers. How to pray to the Supreme Lord. How to glorify, how to understand his position and the gifts we've received from him. We actually don't even appreciate, like a child doesn't fully appreciate what mother and father have given them, right? Similarly, we as children of Krishna can't fully, but by following in the footsteps of the great acharyas, we can learn to appreciate through the expression of prayer. And ultimately we know the greatest prayer that we can recite day in and day out is chanting of Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Because through this prayer, this Maha Mantra, we are glorifying this supreme absolute truth that Srila Vyasadeva has established in this opening verse of beginning with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And from this verse, the whole Srimad-Bhagavatam will unfold, and we'll get wonderful details. And there'll be many, layers of conversations. So there's sort of 3 or 4 layers of discussions happening, with Shukadev Goswami speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, Suta Goswami speaking to the sages at Naimisharanya, who was being questioned by Shaunaka Rishi. And they are revealing, conversations between Maitreya and Vidura and other layers of conversation. So we'll see this. But in the end, it is a glorious journey. And so I'm grateful, and once again, congratulations to Mataji and Prabhuji for bringing something so extraordinary into their home. As I mentioned, it is no ordinary feat. And I hope you will begin to read Srimad-Bhagavatam. It looks like a lot to read, but if we just read a few pages a day, in a short amount of time, actually, you'll be able to come through the whole Srimad-Bhagavatam. At least complete the first canto. This is Srila Prabhupada's, one of his finest pieces of work, is the purports contained in the first canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam. They're so exquisite and very, very powerfully written, with deep meditation, and with the view that he may not ever finish Srimad-Bhagavatam. So he put all of the essence completely in this first canto. So please begin to read. Read daily. Even one page a day is very powerful. And don't get hung up. I don't understand. This was a dense verse. And you can think, wow, I can't understand even the first verse. Just keep going. And this will be revealed to us in time. The topics keep repeating themselves. The topics are very simple. Who am I? Who is Krishna? And what is my relationship? That is the whole of Srimad-Bhagavatam. That is the whole of Srimad-Bhagavatam. But we keep getting it in different flavors. So we don't get it the first time, the second time, no, just keep going. And keep reading with sincerity. And by the mood of devotion, this knowledge will be revealed to us. Srila Prabhupada says, one must approach Srimad Bhagavatam through the person Bhagavatam. And that person Bhagavatam Srila Prabhupada points to is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he by his own example showed us the importance of studying Srimad Bhagavatam. Every day he read Srimad Bhagavatam. And when he explained to Sanatana and Rupa Goswami the principles of bhakti, he established Srimad Bhagavatam. Reading Srimad Bhagavatam is one of the 5 most potent processes of devotional service. And the person that we approach Srimad Bhagavatam through is Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada endeavored with great, for we wonder how long it will take us to read. Imagine how long it took to write. All we have to do is read. At least we can do that, can we not? Srila Prabhupada went through the effort to write. So we can pay honor to that effort by reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. And if we do, we'll be the great beneficiary. But as Prabhupada says in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, approach it in the mood of devotion. Then one can taste the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you very much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions or discussion? Comments? Stunned everybody silent? Or put everybody to sleep? One or the other.
I have a question. Just very grateful to be having a chance of reading it every day in association and stuff. So it's made a huge difference, and it's just wonderful to see so many others getting the benefit of Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's just a very beautiful thing, and very grateful to Srila Prabhupada for giving us. We were just talking this morning on one of the purports we were reading, like how amazingly he has written to such detail and exactness and relevant to our practical situation to this day. So it's just very, gives you goosebumps.
Srila Prabhupada's extraordinary gift was making the very complicated simple. He could take very complex, esoteric, and subtle topics and bring them down to very tangible, relatable words that we can grasp. And that is truly his gift to humanity, among many other things, but one of his great gifts. So it's good to be grateful, because actually, as I said, I said it yesterday, will not really fully appreciate the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam and the fortune we have, maybe ever. I said, once we read it maybe 5 or 6 times in completion, we might have some fraction of an understanding. That's how extraordinary it is. And how fortunate we are to be in the presence of Srimad-Bhagavatam. You know, we put ourselves, oh, how fortunate I got to meet so and so. You know, this is the Supreme Lord. So this is a great fortune.
So I would like to really thank you, Prabhuji. I don't think that we deserved it. So when Prabhuji told me, he asked me that, we'll bring Srimad-Bhagavatam to your place, and we were just discussing. Same day, I got an email from my boss that I was nominated as the Employee of the Year. So that was nothing compared to what he told me. That happiness was beyond, a lot more than what that was. So, it happened the same day, but, the feeling was such a, when he asked me, I was like, we don't even deserve that. But thank you so much for bringing it to our house. Yeah.
Actually, as I said, no one can really do anything to bring the Supreme Lord. He comes where he wants to come. Yes, we may play a tiny, insignificant role, but actually, as I said, nobody can force the king to go. Nobody can bring Krishna anywhere. Krishna goes where he sees sincerity, where he sees desire, and where he sees his loving children. He goes. So that is the reality. Of course, there are always some instruments along the way that facilitate that for us. So, yes, I'm grateful to Krishna for bringing Srimad-Bhagavatam into your home and giving us a chance to discuss like this. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so if not, then should we chant first and we can do the... Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Antara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So we'll chant